king of German mercenaries.
Chapter 162, Send a Message. While Columbus and da Gama were playing the stalking game, Marin also ended the activities of the Teutonic Knights. Before leaving, Marin specially left a lot of gold coins for Jules' family. In addition, Marin also asked Prince Philip. Oh no, it should be called Captain Philip. Marin asked him to send people to the Golden Horde, which had not yet been destroyed, to hire a Mongolian doctor at the level of a court doctor at a high salary. In any case, in this era, the medical skills of Mongolian doctors are much better than the European doctors who bleed and kill people. Asking a Mongolian doctor to come can also properly treat Aunt Tana's illness. Moreover, Marin specifically asked that if possible, buy a batch of ginseng to nourish Aunt Tana. This matter cannot be delayed, because the Golden Horde will be destroyed by the Russians in 1502. Once the Golden Horde, which represents the four Orthodox Mongolian Khanates, is destroyed, Europe will lack doctors of the miracle level like Mongolian doctors. As for the Crimean Khanate, it has been completely Arabiized, and the Mongolian cultural heritage has been replaced by Arab culture. It can be said that once the Golden Horde is destroyed, Mongolian doctors will basically disappear in Europe. At that time, Europeans can only accept bloodletting treatment. After arranging his affairs, Philip asked Marin to do something for him before leaving. Marin, can you do me a favor on your way back? Okay, you say. It's like this. I found that we Westphalians are not in a good situation in the Teutonic Knights. That is. There are not enough Westphalians in the Teutonic Knights. That's true. Marin nodded in agreement. Even if they formed an alliance with the Rhinelanders, they only had 210 votes. If they didn't spend a lot of money like this time in the next election, they might lose to their opponents in Saxony and the Franconian-Swabian alliance. Prince Philip is not stupid, and he knows how to cultivate his own people. So he decided. Marin, when you return, please go to the Principality of Clifford and ask my eldest brother for help. Oh, what help? Marin asked curiously. That is. Aren't there many wandering knights like you in the Principality of Clifford and the Earldom of Mark? Yes. I want my elder and second brothers to organize those wandering knights who have been driven out of their homes in their own territories, and have them come to the Teutonic Knights state to serve me. Yo-ho, Prince Philip is very smart. Marin couldn't help but praise Prince Philip's decision. Indeed, in the Teutonic Knights, there were only more than 90 Teutonic Knights from the Westphalia region, which was not as good as their allies from the Rhineland. If Prince Philip recruits a group of wandering knights from the Duchy of Cleves and the County of Mark, as well as his second brother's County of Nevers, he can also strengthen his power. Later, Prince Philip told Marin that when these wandering knights came, they should be allowed to run horses and enclose land. This was Marin's idea, to solve the problem of survival first. Then, they should find a way to promote these knights from their hometown to become official Teutonic Knights. These people had their roots in the Duchy of Cleves, the County of Mark, and the County of Nevers, and were unlikely to work for others. When they came to the Teutonic Knights, they could only work for Prince Philip. In this way, Prince Philip will be able to quickly gather a team of knights who will be loyal and have no problems consolidating his authority. If more of these people could be promoted to become Teutonic Knights in the future, then even if a decision-making meeting such as the Teutonic Knights Congress was held, Prince Philip would not have to worry about being blocked by his opponents. Marin deeply admired Prince Philip's idea and felt that these noble children were not stupid and were very smart. Although Prince Philip was trained as a monk since he was a child, it did not mean that he was stupid. Moreover, Prince Philip was very good at learning humbly. For example, he did not know much about administration and economy, so he directly asked Marin for advice. In terms of administration, he was prepared to reuse veterans like Lul. As for military and power, Prince Philip was not stupid at all, but very smart. He quickly figured out a way to win over wandering knights in his brother's territory. The Duchy of Clever and the Earldom of Mark were so large that there were many knight lords. Every year, there would be a few or a dozen wandering knights who were driven out of their homes and looked for opportunities to survive. Many of these people may not be able to find good opportunities. They either become very poor or die in accidents. Only a small number of them are truly successful. Therefore, Prince Philip's recruitment is indeed a good choice for these wandering knights who have just been driven out of their homes. Moreover, Marin's suggestion of horse racing and land enclosure is also a good way to solve these people's livelihood. As long as they are given land and a way is found to lend them money to buy some sheep, these people's lives can be on the right track. With a certain economic foundation, these people can have money to support themselves, and can afford the expenses of war horses, weapons, and armor, and then come to work for themselves. Note, the loan industry in the Teutonic Knights is very developed. Many wealthy Teutonic leaders are also big lenders. Some people and groups even provided huge loans to the kings of England and France to support both sides in the 100 Years' War between England and France, with an annual interest rate of more than 10%. Therefore, it is not difficult to get a loan here, as long as there is a strong person to guarantee it. Prince Philip's strengthening of control over the Teutonic Knights is obviously beneficial to Marin. Because the stronger Prince Philip's control over the Teutonic Knights, the more his own interests can be protected. Moreover, the Mongolian doctor that Marin invited for his aunt could not only serve his aunt, but also Uncle Jules's family and Prince Philip. As long as Prince Philip lived long enough, his own interests would be better protected. As for whether Prince Philip would abandon her in the future, there was no need to worry about that. Because Marin had privately inquired and found that Prince Philip was a relatively trustworthy person. Moreover, it was the end of the 15th century, and people were still relatively simple and would not break their promises easily. The key point was that people still believed in God at that time, and they would generally abide by the oaths or promises made with God or the Bible as the medium. Besides, Marin had also signed a written treaty with Prince Philip, and if he broke the contract, he would be despised and spurned. Only after the rise of Protestantism and the weakening of people's faith did Europeans begin to lose their moral integrity. For example, during the 7 Years' War, in the 18th century, the European powers lost all their moral integrity. Prussia and France were originally allies against Britain and Austria. But in the blink of an eye, Prussia allied with the British, and the French also threw aside their pride and allied with their original enemy, the Austrians. During this period, under most circumstances, European countries would not betray their allies, unless the price offered by the enemy was too high. For example, Swiss mercenaries betrayed France for 800,000 gold coins. Marin believed that as long as he became strong enough to make people cautious, Prince Philip would not betray him easily. Because the price of betraying him was too high. Moreover, Marin is now alone and is very much excluded in the aristocratic circle. This time, by helping Prince Philip become the Grand Master of the Teutonic Knights, he can not only gain allies like the Teutonic Knights, but also gain the friendship of the Principality of Clever, the County of Mark, and the County of Nevers. After all, the Duchy of Clever and the Earldom of Mark are relatively powerful principalities. With a powerful ally like John II, they can scare people, right? Even if John II didn't stick his neck out for him, if there was any noble gathering in the future, he would have someone to chat with, right? Otherwise, with Marin's current situation of being excluded, he might not be able to attend any noble gathering, and he could only stay in the corner and drink alone. With these complicated thoughts in mind, Marin and his men set out on their return journey. On the way, they had to make a detour to the Principality of Clever to inform John II and pass on a message for Prince Philip. Chapter 163, Encounter with the Emperor. Marin led his men and rode stealthily all the way, and in Poland, he had to change his identity because he was an ally of the Teutonic Knights and naturally was not on the same side as Poland. In fact, the knights in the German region generally did not take the Polish route to the Teutonic Knights. Many people chose to go to the Teutonic Knights by ship. Because the Poles were afraid that the knights would become stronger, they would often stop or even detain the wandering knights who went to seek refuge. However, Marin had hurriedly led the team to hurry up in order to save time. Riding a horse is faster than taking a boat. Because there were so many people, many of them had 2 horses, plus there were carriages. Therefore, it was difficult to find a suitable ship for transportation. Unlike those wandering knights who had defected to the knights, they were alone or in a group, so it was easier to find a ship even if they had horses and armor. As a last resort, Marin led the team back along the route they had taken before. In fact, when they crossed the border before, they were like a gust of wind and deliberately avoided major towns. Therefore, the Poles could not question or intercept them. On this return trip, Marin also changed the route, which was close to the previous route, but it was another road. This decision saved the entire team. Because the Poles had discovered their marching route to the Teutonic Knights, so they sent people to intercept them. However, because Marin and his men rode 2 horses each and did not wear full body armor, they marched too fast, and the Poles were completely unable to catch up. The same thing happened on the return trip. Marin happened to avoid being intercepted by the Poles. When the Poles sent troops to intercept them, Marin's team had already gone far away. After entering Germany, Marin did not go directly to the Principality of Clifford, but first went to Lübeck. As the capital of the Hanseatic League, Lübeck is naturally extremely prosperous. In fact, the Hanseatic merchants of Lübeck have always been the overlords of the Baltic Sea. In the Baltic Sea region, in addition to the Teutonic Knights, there are also merchants who have formed groups to fight against them. Other regions, such as Poland and the Grand Duchy of Moscow, rely on Lübeck's merchant ships to transport scarce materials such as salt. Even the Hanseatic merchants of the Teutonic Knights often rely on Lübeck's merchant ships to help transport goods. After all, not every Hanseatic merchant has the money to buy and operate sea transport merchant ships. There are more than a dozen shipyards in Lübeck, and a large number of sailing ships are launched every year to enter the shipping industry. Marin came here to order a sailing ship. Marin specifically ordered 2 cogs from 2 of the stronger shipyards in Lübeck. Marin required both of these ships to have a displacement of more than 200 tons, which is considered large among cogs. In fact, Marin also wants to order a bigger sailing ship, which can be built by the Lübeck shipyard. However, as a novice in the sailing industry, Marin naturally has to keep a low profile. If he builds a too big ship, it will attract the attention of Lübeck and cause him to take action. That would be bad. You know, the total number of Lübeck's Kiki sailing ships is as high as thousands, which is much more than the number of Hamburg. If he angers the Lübeck people, they might send dozens of armed merchant ships to attack him. Therefore, Marin chose a size that was neither too small nor too eye-catching, more than 200 tons, with a large cargo capacity, but not too eye-catching. Moreover, when Marin sailed on the Baltic Sea in the future, he would fly the flag of Königsberg, and the heroes on the sea would probably give him face. If he had hung Marin's own flag, he would have been beaten and sunk long ago. After booking the ship, Marin led his men to continue heading southwest to the Principality of Clifford. After arriving at the Principality of Clever, Marin hurried to seek an audience with Duke John II of Clever. Unexpectedly, Marin discovered that Emperor Maximilian I was also a guest here. It turns out that Maximilian I also passed by here. Maximilian I's only son, Philip the Handsome, ruled the Netherlands independently at a very young age. From 1492, when Philip was only 14 years old, he began to manage the Netherlands alone. At that time, Maximilian I, who was originally the regent of the Netherlands, moved back to Austria because of the recovery of Win. From then on, this pair of father and son, one lived in Win or Innsbruck, Austria, and the other lived in Ghent, the capital of the Netherlands. Ghent is the largest city in the Netherlands and the 4th largest city in the Holy Roman Empire, after Milan, Prague and Genoa. Moreover, Ghent is located in Flanders, the most developed region in the Netherlands, and is also the capital of Flanders. Not only Philip was stationed here, but the Dutch Parliament was also stationed in Ghent. Just after the new year of 1498, Maximilian I missed his son very much, so he decided to go to the Netherlands to see his son. As for Prince Philip, he was separated from his father since childhood and was not very attached to him. Therefore, it was basically impossible to expect Duke Philip, Philip the Handsome had already inherited the title of Duke of Burgundy, to take the initiative to visit the emperor. Moreover, Philip was newly married and was still obsessed with his wife, the crazy Juana, who had not yet gone mad. The young couple was so affectionate, who would remember Maximilian I, the annoying old man, even though Maximilian I was only 39 years old, so, Maximilian I, who missed his son, had no choice but to condescend to visit his son. If this happened in China, such an unfilial son would have been condemned by all. But in the West, this is not the case. Although Philip is young, he is about the same age as Marin. However, he is the legitimate heir to the Duchy of Burgundy and is already a powerful prince. Therefore, he is as confident as Maximilian I. Maximilian I was exhausted from the journey. When he passed through Cleve, the capital of the Principality of Cleve, he stopped on a whim and visited John II. The emperor's generals, as subjects, although not belonging to the emperor's faction, had to be entertained warmly on the surface. So John II warmly entertained Maximilian I. Maximilian I also stayed in Clever for 2 days. Before the emperor left, Marin happened to arrive in Clever and brought John II the news that Prince Philip had been successfully elected as the Grand Master of the Teutonic Knights. John II was overjoyed and accidentally revealed to the emperor the news that Marin helped Prince Philip to run for the Grand Master. John II knew he had made a mistake, but the news had already been leaked to the emperor who was visiting the city, and it was irreversible. Fortunately, the emperor did not know that Marin had brought 100,000 gold coins to help Prince Philip, otherwise the emperor would have been so angry that he would have strangled Marin to death. You know, the Duke of Saxony is the emperor's cousin and ally, and Marin is the emperor's man. Marin helped Prince Philip, the Duke of Clever's brother, which was a bit of eating from the inside. But now that things have come to this, the emperor cannot change the outcome. In order not to upset the Duke of Saxony, the emperor even had to help Marin cover it up. However, in order to vent his anger, the emperor decided to call Marin to his residence and give him a good scolding. However, Marin was very smart and didn't give the emperor a chance to criticize him. When the emperor started to criticize Marin, Marin quickly defended himself. "Your Majesty, I am doing this for your own good. The emperor was stunned, but then became even angrier. You dare to quibble? Tell me how you helped Prince Philip become the Grand Master, and how that was good for me. Your Majesty, what army do you think is your biggest concern? Of course it's the French army. Maximilian I said without hesitation. Be more specific. They are Swiss mercenaries in the French army. Maximilian I said after thinking for a while. Yes, this time, I have helped your Majesty in this regard. How have you helped me? I think the new Grand Master Philip suggested that the Teutonic Knights could hire a large number of Swiss mercenaries to fight against Poland and Lithuania. What does this have to do with helping me? The Emperor was puzzled. Marin said mysteriously, Your Majesty, think about it, Switzerland has such a small population, so its military force is always limited, right? Yes, that's right. I suggest that the Teutonic Knights hire a large number of Swiss mercenaries. Did they withdraw a large number of Swiss mercenaries? What do you mean? Maximilian I seem to have thought of something. What I mean is that the Teutonic Empire has hired a large number of Swiss mercenaries. If the French want to go to war with you, they won't be able to hire enough Swiss mercenaries. This is really like this. So, I have also weakened the strength of the French army in disguise. It does seem to make sense. In fact, there were so many Swiss mercenaries that the French could not hire them all, because the salary of Swiss mercenaries was twice that of ordinary mercenaries, and not many countries could afford to hire them. Marin just used the simple method of changing the concept to make the emperor think that he had indeed weakened the strength of the French army. In addition, Marin also said to the emperor, Your Majesty, I know that you and the Duke of Saxony are allies. But, after all, the Duke of Saxony is also a powerful, independent prince who does not submit to the central government. He is no different from other duchies. He is close to you because the current duke is your cousin. If a few generations have passed, it is possible that the Duke of Saxony of that generation and your descendants are still in the same group, so, the strengthening of the Duchy of Saxony may not be a good thing for your Majesty. Moreover, the Duchy of Saxony is already strong enough. If it becomes stronger, will there be another competitor to the throne? Marin's last words deeply touched the emperor. You know, up to now, the election of the Holy Roman throne is still based on the election system of 7 electors. In history, Maximilian I's grandson Charles V spent a total of 850,000 golden gold coins to buy the throne. Moreover, this money was borrowed from the Fugger family, therefore, the throne of the Habsburg family is not very stable. After thinking it over, the emperor still felt that Marin was right, so he stopped blaming Marin and took the initiative to help Marin cover up the matter. Chapter 164, Return and Good News. After defeating the emperor, Marin's mission was completed. So he did not stay here, but took his men, left Clifford City, and rushed back to his own territory. When he landed at the Turtlencure Pier, he saw the prosperous scene on Texel Island. After Marin returned to the castle, he was warmly welcomed by his family who were still staying there. Angela, who hadn't seen Marin for a long time, missed him very much and threw herself into Marin's arms. Humph, Sister Angela, shame on you. You're so grown up but still act like a spoiled child and try to steal my brother from me. Angela occupied Marin's arms, which made Miss Annie unhappy. Huh, Sister Annie, you are so stupid, didn't you see that Angela might become our second sister-in-law? Simon said his guess in a showy way. However, Simon actually guessed right. Miss Anne was immediately confused like Sister Liv. Aha, wow, I don't want it. Annie cried. Why? Simon and Albert were full of questions. Even the old Hoffmans and the Adlers were attracted by Anne's crying. Because, if Sister Angela becomes my sister-in-law, Brother Marin will not love Annie anymore, and he won't have time to play with Annie. There were question marks over everyone's heads. Look, ever since Brother Adler married Sister Liv, he's been spending all his time around Sister Liv and has no time to pay attention to Annie. Annie doesn't want Brother Marin to get married, otherwise Brother Marin won't love Annie anymore. Woo woo. At this time, everyone else present was confused at first, and then they all burst into laughter. Lady Mary was delighted, and she took little Anne in her arms, and said, Annie, your brother Marlon is definitely going to get married. When you grow up in a few years, you will also get married. Wow, Annie, don't get married. Annie wants to stay with her mother. The little girl cried endlessly. Marin thought for a moment, asked Kohler to bring the purse over, took out a handful of gold coins, and stuffed them into Anne's hand. This trick really worked. Anne, who had been crying, stopped crying immediately and escaped from Lady Mary's arms. Why? The little girl was afraid that Lady Mary would confiscate the gold coins. You know, parents have the bad habit of confiscating huge sums from their children. In order to protect the gold coins in her hand, and didn't care about crying and being sad. Instead, she looked at Lady Mary with a vigilant look, which made Lady Mary laugh and cry. After Lady Mary repeatedly assured her that she would not confiscate the gold coins in Anne's hand, and immediately clutched the gold coins in her hand and ran back to her room to hide the money. Simon and Albert looked at them with envy, and came over with a flattering look on their faces. But Marin ignored them. In Marin's heart, he always believed that boys should be raised in poverty, and girls should be raised in wealth. So, Marin chose to ignore these two guys. The two little guys wanted to pretend to cry, but Marin ignored them directly, and then took Angela away, leaving behind two little guys who really wanted to cry. Soon, Hayder Lehman, the mayor of Denburg and administrative assistant of the entire archipelago, received the news and came to report to Marin with the account books. Marin was in great need of civil servants, so Hayder Lehman not only had to serve as the mayor of Denburg and help manage the entire Texel Island, but also had to temporarily manage the 4 newly acquired islands in the face of an urgent shortage of manpower. However, Hayder Lehman had no complaints and felt that he was being valued. This time, Hayder Lehman came here mainly to report the autumn harvest data and the development work of the deserted island. The entire archipelago, except for Yenchen, which is directly under the jurisdiction of Marin, other areas, mainly agriculture and fisheries, are basically controlled by Hayder. Marin left Denburg in the summer and did not return until after the new year. He was away from home for nearly half a year, so he must report on the work he has done in the past 6 months. Marin first coaxed Angela away, and then met Hayder in the study. Sit down, Hayder, and be brief. Don't use those empty words to prepare the way for the conversation. Just get straight to the point. Yes, Baron. The population of the island has increased a lot in the past few months. Counting the immigrants who were forcibly relocated after the war with Frisia, the serfs you sent people to recruit, and the newly recruited troops. Adding them together, the total population of the Wadden Islands has now reached 16,000. Why are there so many people? Marin was also surprised. Sir, there were originally more than 6,000 people on Texel Island. Together with the army, the 4,300 fishermen you robbed from Frisia, and the 1,000 prisoners of war, the total number reached 11,300. Then, in order to develop the 4 large islands, you sent people to recruit 2,000 serfs, which made more than 13,000 people. In addition, you hired 1,250 soldiers, which made. That's only about 14,000 people, that's true, but the people you sent to recruit serfs accidentally recruited too many. Too many. Yes, sir, the manors in the inland areas have had a lot more people now because of the long period of peace and the absence of the Black Death. However, the cultivated land area has not increased, and the increase in population is also a burden. Therefore, many inland manors have a lot more people. Those manor owners think that the extra people are a burden and want to drive them away. As soon as the people we sent to recruit people went there, many manors with a large population even sent their managers to actively provide us with population. Of course, most of the people they want to provide are the old and weak, but when we accept people, we hope to accept able-bodied men. In the end, they recruited more than 1,000 people. Yes, sir, this is our fault. Haha, Hayder, this is not a fault. As long as the people recruited are not old, weak, sick or disabled, then it is not a fault. That's good. The people we send out insist on young men and women. At most, they can bring their families along. This does not violate your request. That's good. How's the autumn harvest going? At this point, Hayder's eyes began to light up. Sir, you don't know that although the war delayed the spring plowing, we still took the time to replant and planted rye on 5,000 ugrams of land. At the autumn harvest, the average yield of these 5,000 ugrams of land was 250 pounds per acre. In order to conform to his own habits, Marin once asked the island civil servants to use the unit of mu when counting cultivated land. Therefore, Hayder also got used to using the per mu yield measurement method. The yield per mu is 250 pounds, which means the total yield is 1.25 million pounds. Ugh, the math that my physical education teacher taught me. 5,000 uglams is clearly 60,000 mu. My lord, the total production is 15 million pounds of rye. Very good. But, don't we have 6,400 ugrams of arable land on the island? The other 1,400 ugrams have not been replanted in time. And what about the oat yield? Well, my lord, the spring plowing was greatly affected by the outbreak of war. We have done our best to replant 5,000 ugrams. As for the oats, I didn't have time to replant them. Please forgive me. Well, that's the Frisians' fault, too. But is there enough oats for the horses? Enough, absolutely enough. Last year, we harvested more than 280,000 pounds of oats, and not a single pound was sold. All of it was saved for the horses. Moreover, oats are not the staple food for horses, but are used in combination with grass. So, there is still enough oats for horses to eat. That's good. Oh, sir, many of the 200 or so pregnant mares have already given birth to foals, a total of 163 foals, so cute. Really? Nick needs to send someone to keep an eye on the foals to make sure their growth and health are not affected. Especially those foals whose parents are war horses, they need to be given special care. Of course, sir. You hired professional horse breeders. They know what to do. This is really good news. There's even better news, sir. I have organized people to reclaim a total of 3,600 ugrams of new arable land on Terschelling, Ameland, Vlieland, and Skiermonnikoog. This spring, we will have a total of 10,000 ugrams of arable land. By autumn, I'm already looking forward to the situation where the granaries will be full. 10,000 ugrams. That's really good news. 10,000 ugrams is 120,000 acres of land. Even if the yield per acre is only 250 pounds, the total output is 30 million pounds. In this era, it is very scary. There is other good news. The 4,300 fishermen you brought back from Friesland have also played a big role. Now, the fishermen at the dock bring back mountains of seafood every day. However, because there is not enough salt, many fish have become smelly. Fortunately, I remembered your instructions and did not discard the smelly fish. Instead, I collected them and threw them into the manure pond, preparing to use them as the phosphate fertilizer you mentioned. There's a big gap in salt. Well, too much fish and not enough salt. It's okay. I'll ask Yenching to add a batch of salt boiling pots as appropriate. That's good. In the future, we will produce a lot of salted fish. However, many fishermen are unable to go out to sea due to a lack of fishing boats. How many households are there? About 300 fishermen are short of fishing boats. So much? Well, many of their fishing boats were requisitioned by the Frisian military during the previous war, and then they were damaged. Okay, I understand. I will provide them with a loan to buy new ships. The cost is. Don't worry about that, sir. Mr. Wright has sent another 100,000 golden gold coins as salt payment on behalf of the Wiggins Chamber of Commerce. It is expected that another batch will be sent by the middle of the year. Therefore, the finances are not tight at the moment. It's really a timely help. Marin had just spent nearly 100,000 gold coins when Wright sent him another 100,000, which immediately filled the account and even left a surplus. Now, Marin regained his confidence.